ridiculous fondling cardboard.
What is up? Welcome back to Fondling Cardboard. I'm your host, Mike Lakusta, aka the Golf Card Collector. Have you ever worked on a project or homework or something for your work that just felt like a bit of a grind? At the beginning, you were so excited about it, you just wanted to attack it and spend all your time, creating something new, creating something special. And after some time, you reach certain levels of success and then start to feel a little monotonous, a little like every day is the same, a little not like you're innovating and creating something special like you were at the very beginning. Well, as much as I absolutely love running, the golf cards niche hobby, like the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group, and staying in touch with everybody through my The Golf Card Collector Instagram, I do find myself sometimes feeling like a mouse exercising in that mouse wheel. And I've teased a few different topics here and there. I'll even throw them out here now just because I know I do want to commit to creating content around these subjects, like the dark side of the hobby, problematic hobby behavior, and on the golf side of things, doing a deep dive into live golf, team golf, relevant cards through the years with collaboration with maybe somebody who's much more versed in the golf world than I am, and then I get to bring the card expertise. But sometimes it's difficult to muster up all of the motivation, because those kind of topics require a lot of research, and particularly when it comes to mental health and problematic behavior, I want to make sure I get it on point and I approach it in the right way, where I'm not giving people advice, or I don't want to produce content that could be taken as professional counseling, professional advice, because that's definitely not my background. That's not my expertise. So all of this is to say, sometimes I need a little bit of motivation. I need something to give me a kick in the rear end and get pumped up and excited to produce new episodes with evergreen content that people will be interested in listening to today, tomorrow, a year from now, at any point in time. And that brings us to our guest. So we've got a repeat guest on the show. That's Adam Van Zee. And today's conversation, Adam really inspired me. I need a conversation like this every now and then to remind me why I like to be a facilitator of this niche golf card community. And Adam has a background in tennis, so we'll get into that. But more importantly, what was the meaning and fulfillment that Adam got out of creating his own niche community back in the day? And it involved tennis, but there was a lot of parallels that I could take away about what I want to cultivate in our little niche community. We do talk about specific tennis cards just because that's kind of interesting. And of course, we always find a way to draw parallels to golf cards and other sports. Anyways, without further ado, let's kick into the conversation. You revealed to me that you have this playing history of tennis, and that kind of turned into a passion of golf.
Yeah, so I played college tennis at a small school in the United States, and so a buddy of mine started a tennis blog for Division III, which is kind of like, I don't say minor league college, but that's kind of the nice way to put it. But it's not quite Division I, where you're getting a ton of exposure. So he started this blog, d3tennis.com, where really started covering pretty niche market, kind of like golf cards, and really started to provide exposure for players, parents, coaches to cover, results, predictions, NCAA tournament selection, which is always an exciting time. And so I jumped on and did that for 6-7 years, started to get into the podcasting, interviewing coaches and players, and really enjoyed kind of shining a light on a sport or a level of a sport that wasn't getting kind of the notoriety that I think those players deserve. Really have always been excited to elevate information that's out there for people to consume.
Well, kudos to you for having that sense of accountability to elevate college sports, even Division III, by running that blog and podcast and representing those underrepresented athletes. Was it just the fact that there wasn't really any media for them to consume and that was talking about them? Was that really the inspiration, or was there more to it?
Yeah, I mean, I was a college coach after I played, and you wouldn't believe how much they talked about the blog. Oh, the blog said this about this team, and so it became almost a goal of players and teams to like we want to get the notoriety. We want to hear them talk about our team and what they think, and so uh, it really became a kind of a rallying point for teams and players to kind of just get mentioned because you watch Division I football here in the States, and you can watch ESPN, and you're going to get something at all times at all hours. Whereas, a simple story to provide light on this national championship match, that's a big deal. College sports is a big commitment and grind, and they deserve the exposure that we were giving. And I love those stories of a player reaching out and saying, "Man, how did you know that I have this weakness or this big forehand and how it could affect my opponents?" And at the same time, I was like, man, I really appreciated you shouting us out of this, monumental win that we had. So really just kind of giving the players the props that they deserve.
Wow, that's awesome. And I want to talk more about tennis and maybe even tennis cards, how this evolved and your passion for golf. But on a selfish point of view, like it sounds like you ran a pretty successful show with your friend. What advice would you have for someone like myself who's also pursuing a niche hobby podcast and developing a community around it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of organic growth is important. It's discussing things that people really appeal to, and some of the things that we did that we thought were fun for us ended up being significantly fun for our listeners and for our readers. There's the example I'll give is there was a national indoor tournament that we set up daily fantasy sports for, and so we valued each player and set it up, and we had over 100 submissions of people wanting to, and they want a t-shirt. They didn't want anything, significant. But they could say, hell, I think this player is going to perform much higher than what they've valued them at. And so it's really just finding things that are fun for you and kind of excite you because those are going to excite other people. They can hear it through, obviously your blogs and your discussions. And for us, it was through what they read and what we were passionate about. And so it's really just kind of sticking with what excites you because that is going to build your core base, and your core base is going to continue to spread it. I didn't listen to your podcast probably 8 months ago, and now I'm starting. Now I'm on it and been able to kind of share experiences through that. So things grow slowly at times, but certain things can really strike a chord with listeners, and that's kind of the best way to continue to grow your viewership.
Awesome. I appreciate the advice, Adam. Uh, Shifting back to tennis, so have you ever considered collecting tennis cards?
I have kind of went down the wormhole of seeing what's out there, and there's not a lot, so that makes it a little tougher. The interesting thing is as we talked about, I'm a Tiger only guy. Tennis, I'm just a tennis fan, so I'd say I almost have the same problem with you, as whereas there's not somebody that I just gravitate towards and really, really want to get those cards. I've ripped a few boxes for fun and just to kind of see how that goes. But I've yet to venture too far into the tennis world just because it's hard for me to narrow down my focus enough to who I want. I just like to watch the best. And I grew up with the big three or big four, if you want to include Andy Murray. But, the Rafa, Roger, Novak conversation has always dominated my conversation. So if I were to ever kind of venture in, those would be the guys I'd go after. Alcaraz is kind of the up and coming player that people he's not up and coming. He's here player that people are on the lookout for. But we're in the midst of the three all time greats. The best three players to ever play the game probably are the three that I just mentioned, and the fact that they played at the same time is pretty awesome. So if I were to venture in, I'd probably be focusing on those three.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's a chase after the goats. You spoiled when I was going to ask about Carlos Alcaraz, but it just validates that he's the one of the guys right now. Because back in 2022, I listened to a podcast called Card Talk, which has since kind of shut its doors, but they have got a nice history catalog of episodes to check out. And the guys there, Lou, Tyler, and can't even forget the main card guy's name, but they talked about all kinds of different sports. And Tyler was kind of a proponent for niche sports. He loved golf cards, which I always loved whenever they mentioned golf on their podcast. And in 2022, I believe it was NetPro was releasing some Carlos Alcaraz cards on their website. And it wasn't a sealed product, it was just buy it, print to order kind of thing. It wasn't print to order. Again, I keep saying that word, but it was just listings for specific parallels. So they'd have the Carlos Alcaraz rookie autograph out of 99, and it would be this price. Then the serial numbered out of 49 would be a little bit more pricey. The one of one obviously would come with a high price tag. And Tyler was talking up Carlos and his cards, saying, this is the guy to get. He's hot right now. He's going to win a major any day. And it was Q1 of 2022. And sure enough, less than a month later, he won his first major at the US Open. And those cards, which had already sold out off of that pro website, were suddenly 3x. They were skyrocketed in value, and I'm sure they've held on to their value since then, as he's won multiple more majors since then. He's kind of the only name. I mean, there's a handful of the greatest of all times that I know, but is he like, who would you equate him to in terms of current golf superstars? Like, is he like the Bryson DeChambeau of current tennis?
That's a great question. He's young, so he's only 21. So in terms of hype, I mean, he's obviously ahead of Ludwig in terms of obviously he's got four majors already. But I would say in terms of hype, it's him. I mean, Ludwig's capable of being an all timer, and by all timer, I'll say five majors or more. The thing going against Ludwig's 25. It's crazy to think that 25 is old, but Alcaraz has been the guy for the longest time. For the last 10 years, everyone's been talking, the big three of Novak, Roger, and Rafa. Who's next? Who's next? They kept talking about who's next, and nobody kept taking the torch. And these guys, just their longevity had been so impressive. And Alcaraz has been the only guy to really step up and kind of take the torch, so to speak. Outside of him, they're still looking for kind of the next guy. Novak's still in it. He's probably at the tail end of his career. Rafa's basically done, and Roger's definitely done. But there's some young names out there. I mean, Yannick Sinner has yet to win a major, but he's currently the number one player in the world. He just hasn't done it on a big stage yet. So he would probably be the next easy choice. I mean, how safe of a choice am I making by picking the number one player in the world? But it's still pretty up in the air. I mean, the fact that Alcaraz has four majors at 21 is impressive, and so it'll be interesting to see. He needs kind of a rival or somebody to kind of challenge him to continue to. Otherwise, he's just going to continue to win. If he wins two majors a year for the next 10 years, he's now the new record holder, and so he's capable of doing that as long as his body holds up. Which Rafa had the issues; his body's starting to turn against him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You mentioned those three greats, Novak, Federer, and Rafa. I don't know how familiar you are with their cards, but are there any cards that come to mind of those three guys, whether it's Upper Deck or Net Pro or Leaf or anything else?
They all have cards. I know that. I've done enough research to know that there are regular just base sets out there, but there's also they all have autograph cards as well. I would have to do some more research to be able to share more specifics. Like I said, it's one of those where I'm almost afraid to jump into the pond because then it would take away from my golf card collecting a little bit. But at the same time, those are the reason why I collect Tiger is because I think he's the GOAT. And you can have many conversations on those three on who the GOAT is and who you want to collect the most. But they do all have cards out there that are able to be able to get.
Well, what's interesting is when you say which of those three is the GOAT, my mind actually goes in a different direction, and I'm not even that involved in tennis. But uh, one unique thing about tennis is that the women's leagues are just as watched and just as valued in the hobby as the men's, if not more, which is very unique compared to any other sport. And so, the first person that comes to my mind is Serena Williams. She very well might be the GOAT in terms of men and women in tennis. And
Yeah.
also, there you go, she is. And she's got some amazing cards too. So if there's any Serena fans out there, check out her exquisite cards from Upper Deck. I know in 2021, I think it was, she had some incredible, like retro exquisite cards. So the LeBron exquisite rookie autograph card is the first one that comes to mind. It looks amazing. They're actually affordable considering she's the GOAT. Like, I mean, we're talking over $1,000, but still maybe $2,000, something like that. And then she's got some pretty amazing parallels of it as well, like the rookie patch autograph in the same styling, the retro exquisite with a patch. So check out those. But the other names, and as I pursue multi-sport sets like Goodwin Champions and Metal Universe Champions, as I'm looking for golf cards, I stumble into a lot of tennis players, and most of them are women. And some of the ones who uh, I don't know, I guess I've been intrigued by, and not because they're women, just because I like the styling of the cards, would be like Maria Sharapova, who has had some cards from both of those multi-sport sets, as well as lots of Net Pro and Leaf cards. So pretty wide catalog for her. And then perhaps a little more narrow offering for Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka. What are your, quick 1 minute thoughts on those players?
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about Serena. Serena is the GOAT in tennis. The thing that hurt her is her competitor was her sister, for the most part. Obviously, there's others. The fact that Rafa, Novak, and Roger, that they get so much press run because they all did it at the same time. But Serena, how dominant she was both for earlier in her career and then post pregnancy. That's awesome. That's impressive. That's something that I can't even imagine what that would be like. But Coco Gauff is definitely a name that I would be I'd be high on. She's shown that she can do it, and she's definitely got the skill set. I think the one that you didn't talk about is Iga Swiatek. She's a multiple major winner. If she can figure out the other surfaces, she is absolutely dominant on clay, like almost unbeatable on clay. Hasn't quite figured out both grass and the hard court. She's still, I mean, when I say hasn't quite figured out, she's still, a top player in the world. But if she can dominate like she did, that's how, when you talk about Rafa is dominant on clay too, but he also figured out how to play on the other surfaces. And if she does that, she's the next person to really take that leap. Coco Gauff probably will win a couple more majors in her career, but I could see Iga winning over 10 or more just based off of her level of skill. So Maria Sharapova, was big in her time. She kind of got in some issues with suspension with drugs, with PED use, so that probably tarnished her a bit. But I know Goodman Champions had some Iga cards. That's who I would probably focus on the most with potential to kind of be an all-time great.
Was Iga the one who was featured in that Netflix series that like Drive to Survive, except for tennis? I forget. I think it was called
She was one
Point.
of them. Yeah. Yeah. There was First Serve. No, what was it called?
Yeah, I remember her being one of the characters or the players that I was drawn to that really kind of intrigued me the most. Um, let's just finish off by saying, you're not collecting these tennis cards. You've shifted to Tiger Woods collecting. Um, and I'll talk to you about that again on a future episode of what your collecting projects are, things like that. But can you tell me a little bit about how you shifted from tennis as a tennis player, a tennis enthusiast, a tennis media content creator? Why did you get into golf cards? And, Tiger Woods being the GOAT, I understand why you collect him, but like what inspired that shift of your focus?
Yeah, I mean the tennis to golf thing was natural in terms of it allowed me to continue to be competitive physically, and so that was always kind of looking for an outlet to. While tennis is a lifetime sport, my body isn't what it used to be, and I can't quite compete at the same level as my brain thinks it probably should. So that was a natural kind of shift into golf for that. But in terms of golf cards, it really just started when started getting a little bit more interested. I wish I would have started pre-COVID, but COVID kind of got the juices at least looking. I didn't take the leap until last year, but it was really just finding ways to appreciate memorabilia, autographs. I went to a card show that happened to be in a mall that I was in, and that really kind of piqued the interest to start to look into it more, because the person had just random cards that I thought were expensive to say the least, and I was like, man, this is. So I started to do more research from that, and then really took the leap. Tiger wasn't my only decision to start at my first 6 months. I was collecting any and everybody. Essentially, that was kind of a known entity. And then, because I know you struggle with sort of focusing on specific, or whether being more focused in your collection, I kind of had that epiphany of like, it's really hard for me to, if someone were to ask me about, Will Zalatoris's one of one card, it would be hard for me to really know and be knowledgeable about that. So I really wanted to focus in on Tiger because of the legacy of him, and my generation has been impacted by Tiger Woods on such a significant level that I have a few other GOATs in my collection. I have some Jack Nicklaus and a couple Arnold Palmers, but so that really is kind of how it developed into that. Is I wanted somebody that was going to be known for their legacy, and Tiger Woods is it in golf. I mean, the fact that he grew, you look at the purses that are currently in golf, and it's because of Tiger Woods. He changed the game, both in just kind of athletes now playing golf, as well as the eyes that now view golf, on a weekly basis. So that's kind of where I got to the point of collecting Tiger only.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, whether it was just hitting on the GOATs of tennis or looking for some inspiration, whether you're going to go high or low on your next hobby project. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you what you loved about the episode and what you want to hear next. You can hit me up at The Golf Card Collector on Instagram, Mike Lakusta on Facebook, Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Till then, take care.
Ridiculous golf card collector.